when I was in Los Angeles, I was doing like podcasts, and I had 3 hours off, and I was just on Twitter, and I posted something about Marvels. I can't remember what it is. I posted something along the lines on Twitter being like, can't wait to see it or something like that.
Yeah.
And then people were, I was getting like quote tweeted by like probably a fucking cock Biden voter. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
And then I was like, I was right across the street from a theater, and Marvel's was on the thing, and I go, fuck it. I literally walked across the street and just went to Marvel's by myself.
Yeah.
I posted a photo of that.
Yeah.
First,
I thought that was a fake photo.
no, I went.
That's so funny. I thought that was like a joke.
It was a joke, but I did do
But I'm
it.
saying, no. But I'm saying, I thought you were like, I'm in Marvel. There's 0 people here.
I went.
I didn't know that was actually.
I watched Marvel's, dude. There was actually one other guy in the theater, but he was in the. He was.
You're like, hey, can you just move for a minute? I gotta take this photo to dunk on Marvels. It's fine if you're in it, but it's that much better.
Who's this guy? He's doing the same thing.
He's also like an influencer. He goes, dude, I'm trying to get an empty photo. You go, why don't we just both take the photo together? We'll just use each other's photos. Collab.
There's one, but I hope this guy was going as a gag. Otherwise, being a grown man going to see Marvels by yourself, which I did, but I was doing ironically.
He's on his podcast being like, and this fucking turkey I'm seeing as a joke, and there's actually a guy watching it.
Marvel, dude, this is a diversity spectacular, my friend.
Yeah, it's all this stuff.
Honestly, it's whatever you think. It's honestly comical to watch. Like, you were just like, you couldn't believe it. It's a UNICEF, the entire thing's like an old school UNICEF ad. There is not a scene that doesn't have every base covered.
Really?
It's hilarious.
Are there any guys in it?
They're all cucks. So every guy is like a total bitch. Samuel L. Jackson tells them what to do. They don't even listen because he's the head guy or whatever, right? Yeah. So he'll be like, guys, I don't want you to go here. And then they go, yeah. And then they go, fuck him, you know? And then they never listen to Samuel L. Jackson. Then Samuel L. Jackson has a little bit of like well, I'm just an old idiot.
Yeah.
So he just gets like bitched around.
Right.
And then there's every place, every guy's a cuck. There's basically, I'll tell you the plot of the movie. So what happens is there's an AI. There's a society that was running an AI, and there was kind of like their god, and then she thought she could stop the AI by just tearing all the wires down there.
Yeah, so very chick idea. You go, why don't we unplug it?
She goes, and then what happened when that happened is that basically the sun turned off. So she basically ruined like 5 different places with her idea. She thought that would work, and it turns out it didn't work.
Chick would do.
And then she was too embarrassed to go home, so she just stayed out in space by herself because she was too embarrassed to go home.
She's just floating in space.
Yeah, because then she goes back, and she doesn't age, I guess. So she goes back, and then
who's this? Brie Larson?
Brie Larson. So Brie Larson.
I've never seen one of the Marvel movies.
There's some good ones.
I know.
She goes back, by the way, and then there's a kid that she was like basically raised her, and that's the black chick. What's her name? It's a white chick, a black chick, and an Indian girl.
No idea.
And then, so the girl that she raised, they have like a cat fight. It's like, oh, you're just back, huh? And then they have like very sexual tension the whole time. And then finally she confronts her about it. And she's kind of like, you left me. And it's kind of that sort of thing, right?
No lesbian scene?
The whole thing has very lesbian tension energy, right?
Yeah.
And then it's a very collaborative. It's all girl stuff. So no love story. Like it's really, and the interesting part is just because it was written by a bunch of chicks too, and it's like they do everything is very chick oriented in the sense that, you know how there's a lot of times there's like kind of a leader and then other guys and people play their roles. It's very collaborative environment.
It's all consensus. Ruled by consensus.
No, it's not even consensus. It's just they never have a bad idea, right?
Yeah,
so there's nothing to consensus on. It's like all 3 girls, they always have their ideas. The one girl goes, we should do this. Sometimes it's the janitor that has the best idea.
Sure. So as long as she's a woman, that's fine. We can take it. So
they all they're always chiming in, and all of their ideas are always amazing. So the kid will sometimes, and the kid's deal is the kid always wanted to be a superhero, and then basically the kid got some powers somehow.
Okay.
So the kid basically, their whole deal, and by the way, it feels like a kid's movie.
Yeah.
It very much feels like Spy Kids or something.
Okay.
Because
it is probably a PG movie, I imagine.
Well, yes, but it's also very impossible to discern who's really the main character. Like, I guess Brie Larson's sort of the main character, but then the kid's sort of the main character.
Okay.
No one really has more of a story than anyone else. It's all very...
Probably, yeah.
And the kid's whole deal is I wanted to be a Marvel person. And then she's like, so I can't believe I'm here. So it's got that sort of almost super bad vibe where it's very, or not super bad. What's the one? Yeah, maybe it is super bad. What's the one where Michael Cera's a superhero? Not super bad.
What's the kid's name?
But it's got a vibe of every scene. It's very like, I still can't believe I'm a superhero.
Yeah.
And after the 10th time, like they're fighting bad guys, it's like she goes, "Look at me, I'm fighting bad guys."
Right.
Like they never aren't mentioning like how. Oh my, look at me.
It's so cool. Yeah.
So she's always super happy to be there, right? And so they're constantly reminding. After a certain while, you're just kind of like, okay, we get it. Like this is a big treat for you to be fighting with the superheroes. So that goes on for the entire movie, right? And if you didn't think it was gay enough,
Did they get the sun turned back on?
that's the end. The end of the movie, basically, she goes and she had the power to she figures out how to turn the sun back on. The one girl is like a super scientist. She's like one of those, she uses a lot of big words. You know when they have a nerd and they use like a lot of scientific language and everyone has to go speak in English and then they have to go, sorry, you know? Yeah. So the one girl's constantly just showing you how smart she is. And they sort of figure out that at the end of the movie, everything gets wrapped up, and then she goes and just sort of flips the switch on the sun, gets it back on.
He goes, I can't believe I didn't think of to try to do that at the beginning.
And also the bad guy's a girl too, and the bad guy girl is also sympathetic because her thing is like, yeah, Brie Larson came and like turned their son off, so their people have been like starving to death, and she hates them. Right. So like, there's no girl in the thing that doesn't have you're the bad guy. You're kind of rooting for a little bit because you're just like, oh, that's a bad deal that she got her son turned off. She has a pretty just fight. And then they sort of become friends at one point because the bad guy and her, they squash the beef a little bit.
Sounds like a real stinker.
I would have I actually thought I was going to walk out about halfway. I was kind of like, okay, I sort of seen it. But then I was like, okay, let me just finish it so I see what happens at the end.
Yeah.
So I can maybe bring it up here or something. There's that part.
Yeah, it sounds like not good.
You know what I
wonder if Disney though is gonna like is this any sort of like we're gonna not do that, or is this one of those things where they go, yeah,
well, this is the second one. The last one people didn't like either.
Yeah, because this is like the thing with these Marvel movies is like when they're bombs, they're talking about losing. They just lost $300 million. I
think it was 300. It was the second most expensive one they made.
Well, I think I looked it up before. It was like it costs I think $250 million, but then you double it for marketing, so it's about a quarter. Yeah,
it was 280, I think.
Yeah, and then you double it, so it's like $560 million is what it costs.
This has got
at 120 right now, so it's like
right.
They've currently in the red $400 million, and there's no DVD sales anymore. So you're like, I guess there's streaming.
I don't know. Apparently, people aren't watching in China. I mean, it's objectively really crappy, right? But it's sort of. I think they knew they were walking the plank because I think this happened. They sort of decided they were going to make this movie 3 years ago.
Of course.
And like in the 3 years, people have really fucking had it up to here with this kind of shit.
Yeah.
So and they delayed it a couple times. I think everyone involved in this film knew but during the last 2 years leading up to this, they knew like, buddy, we're walking the fucking plank here.
And I guess this is too big of a movie to just like. Did you see what they did with the John?
You can't fucking can
the John Cena movie or whatever, the Roadrunner versus.
What happened?
Who's the Roadrunners? Coyote, yeah.
They canned it?
It was done. It's done. Like it was like literally fully done, ready to go, like fully edited, post everything, and then they're just like they took because there was like a tax write off for just like never releasing it or something, so they just took the tax write off and just
what? Yeah, they shelved her?
Yeah, like they're just like
pop her on the shelf there, bud.
It's like a full $100 million movie.
Cena can't like that. You can't see him.
You cannot see him. No.
Cena's
really unhappy about it.
Cena's movies. You can't see me. No. It's a marketing campaign.
Yeah, but they straight up just like were
interesting.
Took a tax write.
This might have been the movie.
And they did that for the cat. What was it? The Catwoman or Batgirl? There was that one or two where they're like, "This is." It's crazy that sometimes they'll get to the end. They go, "This is so shitty that like it's worse to."
I think they almost did it with this.
Yeah.
Well, it's like it was just one of those things where I feel like if you're going to, you know how we used to talk about, I remember someone told me this when it's kind of like a young comic thing, but he was just like, everything can't be like wacky. So if your comedy's wacky or if the characters are really wacky, your plot can't also be wacky because then everyone's just kind of like, what's going on?
Yeah.
So if you're going to make,
it's too much wacky.
If you're going to make that movie where it's like, okay, this is only girls, we have all the, it's basically no real main character, just kind of no love story. Something you might want to make. You might want to follow the normal storylines or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you don't want every single thing to be different.
Yeah. Yeah, she tried.
I can see this.
She tried to just. She just whoever wrote this was like, it's gonna be a new paradigm of movie, and you're like, yeah, it's not though.
Yeah, they did think it was gonna be a new paradigm.
Most people try that, and it's just like a huge failure. Do
you remember in Jack and Jill when that movie was getting trashed, and they had these really long scenes where it was just everyone at the table, and it felt like it moved really slow almost. It kind of had that. The three of them would be talking, and it was all sort of single camera shots, and it would just sort of cut to the girl. She would say something, and then she would say something, and then she would say something. It was very like, no, you know what I mean, not overlapping, and it would just that would go on for 6 minutes, you know. And they were sort of making jokes, and they were like,
they're not good jokes.
Yeah, because the kid was like the comic relief, and it was all this kind of kid jokes.
Sounds bad.
They're very empathetic too. The one time, the one girl, like anytime they yell at each other, they come back like in a couple minutes later and they go, I'm very sorry I spoke to you that way. Yeah, they're always apologizing to each other. It's a very empathetic
The problem is like girls want to see Barbie, not Marvel. Like obviously girls will go see Marvel, but like that's not your main target demographic for these movies. Yeah. So then, and they cry, well, this time it'll be different. And you're like, nope.
No, I think that is kind of why I was thinking when I was in the theater. It kind of reminds me of, because you're basically like, okay, we're going to take a guy thing and make it a girl thing.
Yeah.
It'd be the equivalent of if dudes said, if the romantic comedies or romantic novels that like the audience is 90% women, it would be if guys made a thing where they demanded romantic comedies to be about a guy that goes to Vegas and fucks hookers.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean?
And they did that with Bros, remember? They go, hey, finally, like a all gay guy romantic comedy. And you're like, nobody wants to watch that.
Yeah, no,
I don't know what to tell you. There's no demand
it.
for this.
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. It was like, they have the new romance novel, and it's like, it's about a guy, and he never falls in love. He just goes and fucking bangs a bunch of hookers with the boys. And it's like, well, that's our representation. And obviously no guys want to read the romance because it's still like that genre or whatever.
Yeah, you go fuck that.
And then, you know what the jokes were? Again, it reminded me of like Nickelodeon or something. A lot of the jokes were, they would go, the girl's Indian mom would go, if you don't return, I'm going to kill you. And then she goes, what'd you say? And she goes, oh, nothing.
Yeah.
Like that would be you know what I mean?
So it seems like it's a kid's movie a bit, or at least trying to...
The 14-year-old girl's she's never fought before. She's just shredding every single villain top to bottom. I don't think there's one moment where the only time is when the other bad girl, but there's like sort of the society of cucks that they're sort of saving.
Yeah.
And they're all sort of dudes. They're all just like blogger
useless,
dudes.
Yeah, useless.
But they have cone heads or something. Okay. They're all just like these useless guys like, oh, well, luckily the girls are coming to save the day kind of thing. I don't think a guy wins a fight in the entire movie, right? Guys are just getting
Sounds really crappy.
Guys are getting tuned up in this movie, right?
Ugh.
But if you didn't think that was feminine enough, there's a musical number. So they go to this one thing, this one society, and the one society where she goes, I'm kind of famous here because she's the queen.
Yeah.
Because she married the guy. So he's a Japanese guy, and he's got an accent, which doesn't make sense because they don't.
Which accent?
His Japanese accent. But it's like, wouldn't make any really sense why he would have a Japanese accent because they're not Japanese. There's like alien creatures, right?
Right.
And then basically their language is they can only sing. So they show up and there's a full-on musical number.
Oh, that's...
The queen has arrived. And then they can only sing to each other. And she goes, there is my girl. How long will you be here?
You know what's funny?
And she has to sing back to them.
You know, like forever, like people who made movies would be like, it's like this was going to be such a good movie, and then the executives like got their fucking paws on it, and they started making all these changes. But this is probably the opposite, where they go, do whatever you want, right? The executives are like, we don't want to tell a woman director what to do.
The executives
do whatever you want, right? And then the executives are probably like, we're all getting fired because we decided to let her do whatever she wants here.
That's exactly what happened. The executives stayed the hell away.
Yeah.
Or there was probably some guy executives there that were just like, we're just going to completely just do it. We're not going to follow any of the sort of storyline guidelines.
We have a pretty good system going on here.
And then I think the girl executives were like, what the fuck did you just say to her?
What?
You're saying that these women can't make a movie?
Yeah.
And
they can't reimagine the Marvel universe.
I don't really understand their powers either. The one girl, I guess, she could like sort of she had some bracelet that let her make portals, so they kept sort of changing places.
Okay,
they sort of explained it, but it was a little weird.
I mean, think how much you hate traveling.
Well, they didn't travel very far. It'd be like if me and you just kept switching places. And then they had a lot of montages to figure out how to be good at. The dancing culture was the craziest one, though.
Yeah, sounds like hell.
You know what I was sort of thinking I'll tell you the best before I say move on. I just tell you the best. Probably the best part of it was the Indian dad who was like a typical Indian dad.
Yeah,
they just had really cliche Indian dad jokes. But there was one time, and the only time that I was like, that was pretty good, was they were in the spaceship with all the Samuel and all the people that were getting. They're all just assistants to the Brie Larson now.
Yeah.
The Indian dad, while all the war was happening, the Indian dad was talking to the fellow space guys about why they need to have a Roth IRA and stuff like that. It was okay.
Yeah.
Right. The Indian dad wasn't bad. I'll give him that.
All right, that's something.
Yeah.
Shout out to the Indian dad.
You know what? We've already.
Do you think he'll get a spin-off?
Indian Dad spinoff would actually be okay. I tell you, Indian Dad, every time he came on
that
screen,
conversation, I guarantee you, has been had at like the Disney studio. Should we give the Indian Dad a spinoff?
No, I'll tell you the perfect way to describe it. It was the comedy, because all these movies are kind of comedic a little bit, right?
Yeah.
But it was only the girl that was sort of the comedic effect, and she wasn't even that bad. She probably could have been like a star of Nickelodeon or whatever. It was just, didn't feel like that type of movie. It felt like everything she said should have had a laugh track. You ever watch like Big Bang Theory where they take off the laugh track? Mm-hmm. It was like that. It was jokes that don't actually make you laugh, but like if you put a laugh track behind it, you go, okay, this is a crappy sitcom or whatever. Yeah. It felt like you took the laugh track away from their kind of jokes.